Hey guys, this is Ashley, personal trainer and weight loss coach, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about what are some good carbs and some bad carbs. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and talk real quick about the mission of this channel. The mission of this channel is to reach people all around the world and help them with their weight loss and fitness goals, just like you. So if you want to be a part of that, then definitely make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps this video to get around, and that way more people can see it and benefit from it just like you will. So today I want to talk about carbohydrates, all about them. We're going to talk about good carbs, bad carbs, what they are, what they do, and most importantly, how they affect your weight loss goals. Now, you may know that I like to promote a low carb diet. I never really promote a no carb diet, but I do like low carb diets. One question I get from a lot of my clients is, Ashley, if I cut out my carbs, where am I going to get energy from? And it's a valid concern. You probably have heard that carbohydrates give you energy. But the truth is there's calories in everything, and calories are a unit of energy. So protein can give you energy, fat can give you energy, carbs give you energy too. Now the reason that we feel that, carbs give you energy, of course sugar impacts your glucose levels pretty quickly. So if you're super tired and you reach for some chocolate or something super sugary, we know that we will have that sugar crash because it's going to spike our levels and then we're going to drop. So we want to avoid things like that, but that's essentially why people say carbs give you energy. There are better methods though to get energy from carbs where you can get a sustained, prolonged energy that doesn't make you crash, and we're going to talk about all those kinds of options. But first, let's get into a little bit about what carbs are. I think it's important to have a good understanding of them first. So, carbohydrates at a chemistry level, a molecular level, they're just one of the three macronutrients. You have carbs, you have fats, you have proteins. So all foods break down into one of these three things or a combination of the three, but that's what makes up the food that you eat. Carbohydrates at a molecular level are made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. This is basically the definition of a carbohydrate. You have monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. Monosaccharides are one sugar, disaccharides are two sugars, polysaccharides have more. Mono and disaccharides are typically what we think of when we say simple sugars. So your things like glucose, fructose, sucrose, lactose, those things. Our polysaccharides are more complex. So this is the basic kind of chemistry overview of what a carbohydrate is. But I do think it's important to understand, because oftentimes people will say, oh, I've cut out carbs. And I'll say, oh, okay, well, did you eat some vegetables today or have some fruit? And they'll say, oh yeah, I had a salad, and yeah, I ate some fruit earlier. And it's like, well, then you didn't cut out carbs. You may be cutting out certain kinds of carbs, but not all carbs. And we want to make sure that we're not cutting out all, because reasons I'm going to tell you in a minute, but not all of them are evil. There are definitely good carbs out there. So let's address one of the ways that we assess whether a carb is good or bad. Carbs are frequently broken down by complex carbs and simple carbs. So I just said a second ago, our simple carbs or simple sugars are the monosaccharides, disaccharides. Basically, this is going to look like foods like cookies, donuts, cakes, white bread, rice, pasta. All of these things are considered simple carbohydrates. And that's basically because they're full of sugar. Carbohydrates are usually made up of fiber, starch, and sugar. When it's mostly just that sugar piece or only just that sugar piece, then it becomes a simple sugar. Now the funny thing is, sometimes fruits fall into that category because they have fructose, but not all of them are bad. So we can't just say all the simple sugars are bad. That may not necessarily be true, but you know very well that a donut, a cake, a cookie, white bread, these things, they're not healthy. They're not good for you. They're not giving you a lot of benefit. So those are our simple sugars. Our complex sugars are going to be heavier in fiber, in starch. So things like oatmeal, whole wheat, vegetables, certain fruits, things like this that are going to have that fiber component to it. These are going to be considered our complex carbs. So obviously the complex carbs definitely sound a bit healthier than the simple carbs, right? pretty easy to figure out there. But what we want to do is we want to eat the complex carbs, because what they're going to do for us is they're going to give us energy, but it's going to be a sustainable energy level. When you're eating the simple sugars, a lot of times they can spike your glucose levels, and then you'll have that crash that we don't want to have. Not only is it that, but our simple sugars or our simple carbs, a lot of times these are foods that tend to be higher in calories. They definitely have a lot more sugar going on. A lot of them are highly processed, and all of these things together really just hurt our weight loss goals. We want to make sure that we are eating foods that are going to help us with our weight loss goals, things that are going to be lower in sugar, lower in carbohydrates, that are going to be burned appropriately and digested appropriately in the body so that we get sustained energy. We're not going up and down with our levels. Things like this are important. But it's not the only way to assess different kinds of carbs. There's another way that people frequently look at carbohydrates, and that's on the glycemic index. What people don't always do is look at the glycemic load of the food item. Now, the glycemic index, if you don't know, is a spectrum that foods are rated on, and we can see that some foods are high on the glycemic index, some foods are low on the glycemic index, depending on how much sugar is in them. So you may see that something like watermelon or pineapple may be higher on the glycemic index than, say, blackberries. They're all fruits, they're all carbs, but they may place in different areas of the glycemic index. Something we want to look at, though, is how many carbs are you getting in one serving? Not just the sugar, but also how many carbs are we getting? So the glycemic load accounts for this and helps us to solve that issue. When we figure out the glycemic load of an item, if it is lower, then our body can digest it better, it's going to sustain us better, it's not going to spike our energy levels as much. Whereas if it's higher on the glycemic load, then we may have some issues with that. For example, a bagel has a glycemic index of 72 and a glycemic load of 25. This means that it's both high in glycemic index, basically in sugars, and also in the glycemic load, and so this is not an ideal food source. Now, if you wanted to eat something else, like maybe let's say watermelon, its glycemic index is 80, but its glycemic load is only 5 because watermelon is mostly water and doesn't have a whole bunch of carbs per serving. So this could be a good option if you're trying to eat some carbohydrates, something maybe sweet, and you don't want to have a huge amount of carbs in your diet. So eating according to the glycemic index or the glycemic load of a food can also really help you to determine some good carb options from the bad carb options. However, if you're thinking to yourself, Ashley, this is like a lot of work, a lot of thinking, is it going to be high on glycemic index? Is it simple or is it complex? Well, let's break it down to an even simpler level. Let's just look at asking yourself, is this food good for me? Does it give me a certain level of nutrition? If I put a donut in front of you and I put an apple in front of you, can you look at that donut and ask yourself, what nutritional value am I getting from this? There is no nutritional value. You're just going to get fat and sugar. Meanwhile, if we're looking at the apple and we say, hey, what kind of nutritional value am I getting out of this? Then you'll say to yourself, okay, well, I know apples have fiber and I know they have vitamins. They also have water and they have other things in them that are really good for you. But at least you can say, okay, I'm definitely going to get something for myself out of eating this apple versus eating this donut, which isn't going to give me anything but sugar and fat and calories, and that's going to hurt my weight loss goals in the end. I hope this video helps you to figure out how to navigate the world of carbohydrates a little bit better, separate the good from the evil, and eat according to your goals, guys. It's definitely going to help you with your weight loss goals if you can make sure that you're eating things that are lower in sugar, lower in carbohydrates, that aren't too heavy and not giving you any value. So make sure that you're trying to make the right choices, guys, and it's really going to help with your weight loss goals. And if you haven't already, make sure to like, guys, and subscribe so that you will continue to see more videos like this. I post every Tuesday and Friday, and we'll get more information to you about how to help with your weight loss goals and your fitness goals. Also, check the description for the links below that will connect you to my LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram so you can see the things I post there pretty regularly. And I really appreciate you guys for watching the video. Thanks so much.